Shalom, and God bless. This video, I want to talk about reasons why I think there isn't a pre-tribulation rapture. Now, if you've seen some of my other videos, you know that I've stated why I believe there is a pre-tribulation rapture. Something you have to understand about, well, me personally, is that I try to keep an open mind. So I try to look at, both sides of the coin, both sides of an argument, or all sides possible, instead of just being, one-sided about an issue. Because I believe that's part of the reason, being one-sided is part of the reason why many people, they don't grow in their faith, why they don't understand or know the truth. They approach the scriptures with a predisposition, instead of allowing the text to show them, what is the truth. So in this video, I want to talk about reasons why there isn't a pre-tribulation rapture, and it's not going to be a very long video. It's just for the most part one simple fact or two why there isn't, why the church might have to go through the tribulation rapture. Now, I still hold to the stance, to the position that the church goes through the doesn't go through the tribulation. I still lean towards a pre-tribulation rapture. But in this video, I'm going to talk about reasons why there may not be a pre-tribulation rapture. And truth be told, I don't think it's exactly clear in Scripture if there's a pre-tribulation rapture or if there's not. Some people would try to be dogmatic about it and say, it is clear in Scripture. But the fact that we are still debating about this shows me that it isn't exactly clear. There's evidence pointing both ways. And just because, you have evidence for something doesn't make it proof. You might have evidence in a court case, showing why someone's innocent or why they're not innocent, but that doesn't exactly prove your case. So, when we read the New Testament, we see, Paul says that the law is a shadow of good things to come. And, Yeshua is that light. So, when we look at the Old Testament, okay, the Tanakh, that's the acronym for Torah, which means instruction, Nevi'im, which means prophets, and Ketuvim, which means writings, what we call the Old Testament in Christian world. The Old Testament foreshadows what would happen in the future, what the Messiah would do in the future. Okay, so, we can look at the 7 feasts of Israel and decode them in a manner of speaking, and see how this relates to what Yeshua would do in the future. For instance, we have Pesach, we have first fruits, and we have the Feast of Weeks, Shavuot, what we call Pentecost. We know that Yeshua was sacrificed on Pesach, on Passover. At the same time, when the wave offering was being made on first fruits, when it was lifted up, Yeshua was lifted up. He was resurrected. And then you have, first fruits, etc. So, we can see in Scripture how the Old Testament foreshadowed what would happen in the New Testament. The sacrifice of Yitzhak, of Isaac, when Abraham was offering up his son. It was a picture of Yeshua's sacrifice. Now, so, Scripture says that, you know, Abraham saw the place on the third day. On the third day, you know, the place is an idiom for God. In it says that he saw him on the third. He saw the place on the third day. You know, Yeshua was resurrected on the third day. So, you know, Abraham saw a future picture of the Messiah. The Messiah says that Abraham saw my day, he rejoiced and was glad. Well, when did Abraham see Yeshua's day? You know, Abraham received a prophetic picture. Now, if you look at that word in the Hebrew, merachok, it means to perceive the future. It does mean to, you know, to see afar off or to see in the distance, but it also means to perceive the future. So Abraham saw the Messiah, and when the Messiah was, you know, when Isaac was offered up, Abraham saw a ram in the thicket. Yeshua received a crown of thorns. So we see that there's a parallel, there's a foreshadowing of what would happen in the future. What the Messiah, what would happen with the Messiah. You know, God did not leave us ignorant. The Torah and the prophets reveals what will happen in the future, what will happen concerning in the end of days, the Acharit Hayamim. Now, with that being said, with understanding that the Torah foreshadows the law, what Christians call the law, which is actually, Torah actually means instruction. It doesn't mean law. Now, if we were to go to the Greek, if we look at the Greek word nomos, that does mean law. But however, Torah does not mean law. It means instruction. Now, if we look at the Torah, understanding that the Torah foreshadows the future, we should be able to see where the rapture of the church is foreshadowed. Now, arguably, there's nowhere in Scripture where we can see a mass group of people being taken away by the Lord, being taken out of the earth. You know, at most we can see Abraham entering the ark with his family, but even then they weren't taken out of the earth, they were taken into a place of safety. When we read Revelation, we see that the woman, Yisrael, is taken into a place of safety in the desert. So we can't point to any one place where God raptures a mass group of people. But if we look at the pattern of the Torah, what would be foreshadowed is that God protects his people during trying times, during tribulation. You know, when we read the book of Esther, you know, God didn't rapture the Jews from their place, but what happened is the Hebrew people were taken care of, they were protected. God provided a way for them. You know, he used Esther and gave her wisdom, and he used her uncle. So we see that the pattern of the Torah, what's foreshadowed, the shadow that we seem to see in the Torah and in the prophets, is that, and in the Ketuvim, the writings, or I guess in what we call in Christian world, the books of wisdom, is that God protects his people during tribulation. He doesn't rapture them, he doesn't take them out of the way, but he gives them wisdom to get through the tribulation, and he gives them a place of protection. You know, when we look at Egypt, when God was raining down the plagues, Israel was there in the midst. of the plagues. He was protecting Israel while he was raining down these plagues on the Egyptians, the Mitzrayim. So, we could go on and on. There's many instances. If we look at Daniel, he was also protected. Now, when it comes to we see Enoch was he was taken, he was translated. We can see Eliah, the prophet Elijah, he was taken up. Okay, so but when we look at these instances of harpazo, okay, it's not Hebrew, that's Greek. There's Hebrew words for rapture I'm not going to get into. We see that it was individuals who were raptured. Okay, if we look at the New Testament, and we see someone being raptured, we see that Yeshua himself was taken up. That was an individual. In other cases, when we go to the book of Revelation, we see that the two witnesses, the two olive branches, the two anointed ones, they were taken up. So, when we look at Eliah and Enoch, some people believe that they are the two anointed ones, the two olive branches. Me personally, I believe Scripture, there's more proof for Moses, and Elijah. But we see that it's, it's not a mass group of people, but it's actually selected people, anointed ones, righteous people, righteous men, special men who were actually raptured. So, what the Torah shows is that it's going to be one of God's anointed that will be raptured. And we read about in Revelation how the 144,000 are sealed with the mark of God, so that they would not be touched by any of the plagues or any of the attacks the angels or God brings upon the earth. So there again we see God protecting people. So it would seem that the Torah more so points to God protecting his people during the tribulation than actually rapturing them from the tribulation. But I could get into several reasons why there is a pre-tribulation rapture. I'm just, giving food for thought, giving something for people to think about who are open-minded. Now, for those who are closed-minded, those who just believe there has to be a post-tribulation rapture, there has to be a pre-tribulation rapture. I'm not going to, these words aren't going to mean anything to those types. But to you, who are wise, have an open mind and an open heart, you're gonna meditate on this, look into it. And again, me personally, I lean towards a pre-tribulation rapture, but I see how there's evidence for there being no pre-tribulation rapture. It could just be that there isn't a pre-tribulation rapture, but there is a pre-wrath rapture. In other words, we go through tribulation, but we're raptured before God starts pouring out wrath on the earth. But that may not necessarily be the case. Just something to think about. I think about these things. My personal attitude towards it all is that I believe in a pre-tribulation rapture, but I'm prepared to go through the tribulation. I'm open to the idea that there may not be a pre-tribulation rapture, although I believe it. I'm open that, the church may have to go through tribulation. And I think if we were wise about the situation, we'd be prepared, we'd all be prepared to go through the tribulation. We'd make the preparations. Just as, Joseph made preparations, to go through the 7 years of, famine. During the 7 years of plenty, he made preparation. So I think we should make preparation now. And, just think, if there was a pre-tribulation rapture, you just think, if you prepared to go through the tribulation, those who get left behind, they would be able to take over, the things that you have prepared. So they would actually, it would be a help either way. You'd be ready either way, and it'd be a blessing either way if you prepared. And I'd like to just kill this idea that just because someone believes in a pre-tribulation rapture, that they're somehow teaching escapism, and that they're somehow not ready, and they're preventing people from getting ready for the tribulation. That's not true, okay? There's those like me who actually believe in or lean towards a pre-tribulation rapture, but they're still preparing themselves if they have to go through the tribulation. I mean, regardless if there's tribulation or not, Scripture says that, perilous times would come. It's going to be hard during the birth pains, even before the tribulation, so there's still a preparation that has to be made, regardless of what you believe. So, that's all I have to say for this particular video. I hope it was a blessing. So, Beruchim, blessings, and Shalom.